My main goal was to look at transport and how it's integrated into so many aspects of our day-to-day life. I had made a film a while back called Life in Motion, which looked specifically at the nightlife of city traffic and tube lines. I wanted to achieve a similar result except at a much faster pace and using a different variety of effects, e.g. playing with forwards and reverse time, speed, time lapses, etc. The post-production aspect of the video was where I felt I was most creative and in control. I had done some experimental things with the camera, e.g. time lapses and slow motion filming, but the post-production process allowed me to speed up / slow down footage even further, create time ramps with the speed effect inside Premiere Pro, and also rearrange footage to create a forwards and reverse in time effect. I also tried to be creative with the way that I use the speed up / slow down effect and forward / reverse effect within Premiere Pro by editing to the soundtrack. For example, when you hear the drop of the soundtrack enter, I would cut the shot in two, having the first half of the shot prior to the drop slow and the second one sped up to about 300 to 400%. What inspired me the most when producing this experiment was this idea that there is always a journey in life, regardless of where you are, and within this journey there's always going to be a destination. You cannot alter time in real life, but in filmmaking I felt creative as I was able to edit this journey and play with time and the sequence of how things happen, producing an alternative way of viewing our journeys. I also wanted to push my creative boundaries further in the sense that although my first film Life in Motion touched on the same topics, the underlying theme was that you, the viewer, were restricted and could not move with people around you, which made you mainly an observer. Whereas with my experimental video, I wanted the viewer to feel a lot more involved. A book that definitely inspired my experimental video was In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch. Murch talks about editing like being a controller of as to when we blink. In other words, deciding simply how we view things and what effect that has on the audience. In the case of my experimental video, I was really trying to play a lot with the simplistic way we view day to day and implement changes to create a more creative approach. The main hurdle that I had to come across in the shooting of this film was how to do a time lapse. This was the main effect in my film. I'd been struggling to find the right camera that would give me the results I wanted, but eventually managed to settle on the Sony a7S that came with the Sony Play app Time-Lapse. This app allowed me to create a time-lapse by selecting an option that allowed me to take images every second or based on the interval between each image. I was then able to drag this into Premiere Pro by selecting the first image and clicking the image sequence, merging the clips into one file. For the other scenes, such as the train scene and the street scene, I used a variety of different speeds within the camera, playing with fast and slow motion. I think what went well was that I was able to get the shots that I needed and portray across what I wanted through the camera work and the post-production. I was really pleased with the lens that I was able to go to inside Premiere Pro with that to make my footage experimental without ruining it too much, e.g. speeding some of the slow motion shots to make them fast motion. I was happy with the forwards and reverse effects that just added a nice simple touch to the film and that idea that I was trying to get across of playing with time. Although I didn't manage to achieve what I had planned within my experimental film, I could have found more effects, transitions between clips, and effects to use throughout the film, as I felt I was reusing a lot of the techniques I had. One of the things I learned from my experiment was the importance of planning. In an experimental video, there is a lot more to plan than just simply how, where, and what to shoot. In a standard short film, there is always a loose plot, a script, and a storyboard to go by. In an experimental film, planning becomes a lot more challenging. In the case of my film, this meant that I had to be a lot more creative in how I was going to plan things and where I was going to shoot what, as the materials I came up with in the pre-production stage weren't sufficient enough to help me, guide me in the planning process. I think that when it came to the filming process, I did get the shots that I needed and managed to portray what I wanted, but I feel that I could have had shot more footage so I would have more clips to play with that might have allowed room for different effects to be applied. I also feel that I should have tried to attempt a better way to approach an experimental sound compared to simply using a soundtrack and editing to the soundtrack.
Mind the gap.
I have definitely learned a lot through this short film and can say that I have improved in various different aspects. It has not only caused me to try and come out of my comfort zone with my editing and be more experimental, but it has also caused me to understand more about the production process and cinematography in general. I was happy with the result that came out of my experimental video, but feel that there could have been room for a lot more development. Perhaps in the future I will try to make another film on the same topic, but will try to play with even more effects and create a variety of different transitions to engage the audience.